Good. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm here with Dr. Alysson Muotri at UC San Diego. He's a very esteemed neuroscientist. He is a very known researcher in neuroscience, one of Brazil's top neuroscientists, and he has done a lot of work in neuroscience. He has done a lot of work towards Zika virus and advancing science towards that. He's done research with Neanderthal brains, and I'm interviewing him today about neuroscience, consciousness, and just to pick his brain about the mind and neuroscience in general. So, how are you doing today, Dr. Alysson Muotri?
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm gonna pass you the mic.
Okay. So we have to talk here. Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
So my first question for you, Doctor, is as a neuroscientist, what is consciousness to you?
Yeah. So I don't think we have like a clear definition of consciousness. And there's different debates about what it is. But I think what gets closed is some kind of self-aware with feelings. I think that would be my definition.
So it's like self-awareness of your feelings, knowing how you're feeling and what you think about your feelings is what consciousness is to you.
That that's correct. Yeah, and I think because when I think about consciousness and I ask myself, am I conscious? And I think yes, I think I am. I live in this world. I'm in this office now. I'm talking to you. And by the way, you look like me. You have two eyes. You have two arms. So you must be conscious as well. So you are probably feeling similar things that I'm feeling. And I think that's the definition. Things get tricky when you start asking, is a dog conscious? And you say, well, the dog looks like me, has two eyes. Well, the body is kind of different, but it seems like he's feeling the same thing. But then you go to a fish, and that becomes problematic because the fish doesn't look like me. And then you go to a bee. Oh, it's definitely not like me, but is it feeling something? And I think these days that all living creatures have some kind of feelings and self-aware and consciousness. Is just a matter of different levels and probably very different in a way that you and I feel it. So I think it's a universal thing.
So, stemming from that, do you think that other animals can one day evolve to reach the level of human consciousness that we have, or is that how you see things? And one day, do you think a dog can reach the level of a human conscious and have thoughts like we do?
No, I don't think that that would be possible, and I think it's because the way the brain is structured, the way the sensory information reaches the brain, and all the genetic information that is encoded in different ways. So I think that each species might evolve their own consciousness, but I don't think we'll ever feel like a dog, or the dog will ever feel like us. I think these are very different.
So I've thought a lot about the brain versus the mind, and I think that the brain is a bunch of neuro signals that a bunch of synapses firing, and the mind to me is kind of our thoughts and the interface between us and reality. So I want to see if you have a distinction as a neuroscientist between the brain and the mind, which are our thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's a great question and a difficult one. As a neuroscientist, we try to be very materialistic in thinking, as you mentioned. I mean, about molecules, genes, neurons, synapses, circuitries. And then it reaches to a point where it doesn't feel material anymore. The thought of the feelings, it doesn't feel that this is related to anything that is material, at least not that we can detect. So I feel that there is a different level for the mind that might be connected with the body, but we just probably don't have the right tools to measure it.
So, as someone who's been pushing research in organoid studies and making mini stem cell brains in the lab, do you see like eventually science getting too far where we create consciousness in the lab? And where do you see the future of mini brain and stem cell research going when it comes to making a conscious brain in a lab?
Yeah, so we have to agree on what is consciousness. And I honestly feel that at least the brain organoids that we generate here has lots of things that are very similar to the human brain. They generate very complex neural oscillations that goes away when they're exposed to anesthetics, for example. So this is like a pretty strong evidence that they might have something that might be similar to a level of consciousness. So even though we cannot claim that they are at this stage, it might be one day where it will be very clear. Maybe when they are connected to a body or to a chimera, and they might be experience the world in similar ways. So I think it's inevitable that we're going to get to that position. So the stem cell research will advance to a point where it's going to be inevitable. It's going to be very similar to the human brain.
So do you see one day that there will literally be like a full grown brain in a lab that has thoughts and has experiences like a human brain does?
Yeah, that's correct. I do think that that's where we are going. Yeah.
And so I wanted to get your pick your brain about neuroarchaeology, so like the evolution of the human brain and how we're developed as a species to get to this point. So just curious about like the layers of the mind and the layers of the brain. So I have like I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think that the human brain started and evolved from the inner layer, and then started to build outwards and outwards and outwards. And then as we move forward as a species, humans are going to be able to unlock their whole brain and achieve a new layer of thought and consciousness in general. So, what are your thoughts on this viewpoint and um, about the structure of the brain, and if that kind of confirms or uh, relates to what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, that's another great question. So this whole concept of neuroarchaeology started when we start comparing the genomes of our closest extinct relatives, such as the Neanderthals or the Denisovans, to modern human populations. And we figured out that there is a catalog of 61 protein coding genes that are different between us, modern humans, and Neanderthals, for example. So it's a very limited number of genes. Um, and you might think, wow, I mean, if that's uh, such a like a low number of genes and the impact of that is so great, um, different from the Neanderthals, we modern humans have like a strong capacity for art, technology, and adaptation never seen in any other species. And when I think about, wow, only 61 genes. So imagine if we have perhaps 10 more genes. That might actually unlock another a whole new potential. And maybe we're just in the middle of evolution to acquire 10 more mutations that actually unlock different potentials in our brains that we currently do not have at this stage. So I think like evolution is still going, and we might actually acquire some of these sporadic mutations that becomes fixed in the human population and give us another great advantage. We just don't know which one is going to be. But yeah, I think there is more potential.
So there are some companies in the world right now that are trying to bring back the woolly mammoth and doing experiments like that where they can do de-extinction. So this relates to your line of work with Neanderthals and making the Neanderthal brains in the lab. Do you think that one day we can bring back a Neanderthal to the world? And what would that look like if there was a Neanderthal walking back that we like made through science?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to do that right now with the tools and technology that we have, because even though it's a limited number of protein coding genes, there's other mutations in regulatory regions, and that becomes very difficult to edit the human genome to this point. So ideally, we should find like a preserve soft tissue from, for example, a Neanderthal, where you could do a cellular nuclear transfer, and then find an available uterus to kind of pass through the gestation and give rise to someone like that. This was actually very well described in a movie called William, and from Team Disney, and I highly advise, because that's exactly the exercise that he does. I mean, if we recreate a Neanderthal nowadays, what would be the impact? And I won't spoil, but I love the outcome of the movie.
So one thing that I've been thinking of in terms of neuroscience and evolution in general is I think that there's a lot of um, the concept of ego in psychology and in neuroscience in general is something that I've really been playing around with, and the concept of self and others. And one thing that I've been thinking about is this idea of being selfish and being uh, serving your ego is something that have gotten humans to where we are today at this point. But I think that it's a evolutionary feature that doesn't serve us anymore. And I think that to fully prosper as a species, we have to move past the ego to move into this new, let's say, like a new earth where we have um, a lack of sense of self and a just a feeling of like belonging to the planet. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's an evolutionary trade-off. Probably this ego thing that you're pointing is what put us here with all these tools and technology and lifestyle that is very comfortable to us. But you're right. Probably there is a tipping point where these start to become detrimental to our species, and I think that's exactly where we are. So fortunately, I think there are lessons from nature, and that's where I think the psychedelics comes in. Different human populations has been experienced with psychedelics for a long time, and the one thing that is common is the reduction of the ego. And once we reduce the ego, the whole competition, the whole dispute for resources become mild. We don't care about those anymore. There's a sense of belonging, not only with other humans, bonding with other humans, but also with nature. And I think it's interesting because at this tipping point where we are, I feel that there is a psychedelic renaissance, where more and more people are being exposed to different types of psychedelics and having this awakening. So the question is, would be enough of us who would experience psychedelics to turn the tipping point back where humanity should become prosperous again?
That's a very interesting point you just made about the Renaissance, because I just made a video on my Instagram where this is going to go up about how I think we're about to enter a new Renaissance. And this is a very similar to in the 1500s, where there was a Renaissance based on art, exploration of space, or exploration of science in general, and a boom in innovation. So I think that AI and science right now, at the stage it's at, is entering a new Renaissance because of this dissolving of the ego in society. So I just want to hear your thoughts about if you believe that we might be entering a new kind of renaissance where art and science and innovation is going to boom again.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. I think it's a matter of numbers. Because if it's just like a small number of humans who experience that, is not transformative enough. So we need more people to kind of join a movement where it becomes revolutionary, and changes the status quo. So we start becoming less materialistic and thinking more about the human experience. So yeah, I think it boils down to the number of people who start to being exposed to that, and be aware of the changes, and start fighting for this planet.
It's a great answer. And now I kind of want to move towards autism and your research in autism. So I know that you've done a lot of studies toward autism, and I know people in my life with autism, and I'm just wondering. There's a kind of debate on if autism is should be viewed as a pathology or if it should be viewed as a neurodivergence, as in just a different type of brain organization instead of seeing it as a pathology. So I know you've probably talked about this before, but I just want to hear your updated thoughts on what autism is to you and how socially we can deal with autism to make people feel like less estranged for having autism, or if it's something that we should work towards fixing.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, to be with the diagnosis of autism, it has to be detrimental to your life. So if there is no consequences to your life, probably it's just the way you think, is your lifestyle, it is your personality, but it's not autism. So to be under the spectrum, something is bothering you are not able to bond with others, you are having like hard time socially, you have hard time to talk, and you probably are experiencing tons of medical comorbidities that makes your life miserable. So then you are under the spectrum of autism. If none of that is bothering you, you are not. And we have lots of misdiagnostics these days, because people are forgetting those things. I mean, autism is a pathology. It's not something that you are proud of. It is something that it bothers you, and I think that's where the science is trying to help. I don't like to say we're going to fix autism, or we're going to cure autism, but we're going to cure the comorbidities. We want to treat the symptoms. So that's where the science is. And regarding to neurodiversity, I think both autistic and non-autistics are part of that, and it's just a matter of respecting each other. So we should not like disturb or distort the neurodivergence concept to include or not autism. It's already included.
And just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, you spent your whole life studying the brain at the most fundamental level. You've done a lot of research in the brain. How did all that time, spending decades learning about the brain and how it affects us as human beings, change how you understand yourself with your emotions, your identity, your sense of meaning, and your understanding of the world in general?
Yeah, I think being a neuroscience and work at this most fundamental level, and also studying the brain at the molecular, cellular, and network level, you start to appreciate how rare it is to have a functional brain. It is a miracle to have for us to be here talking and understanding each other. So it gave me like a huge appreciation for life, and to be able to have an inquisitive brain. So this again, it seems like almost a miracle that a bunch of cells can get together, start self-organize, generate a brain and a person, and that brain guides that person through the environment so you can experience the world. It is a sense of a sense of aware, and happiness, I guess. So yeah, so this is a neuroscience at the most basic fundamental level.
Just a final question for you. As we enter this AI boom and technology is advancing at a pace that we've never seen before and no human living today has seen before, how do you think that's going to affect us at a brain level? And how do you think AI and all of these new tools are going to affect us if we've been living in a world that hasn't had all this and it's hitting us all of a sudden?
Yeah, we need to understand. I mean, as with new technologies, right? And this has happened throughout the human history. As we acquire new technologies, we have to learn how to deal with that. We have to have a balance of how this is beneficial or detrimental to us. And you might argue that, well, but we never saw AI. Yeah, but a couple years ago, we never saw the internet. And even years ago, we never seen like a calculator. So we passed through these technologies, and we slowly were learning how to deal with that. I think is to be aware that all new technology might introduce good and bad things to your lifestyle, and be always like critical about the technology, and not let um, technology takes the your place, the place of your brain and your thought. It is to trust yourself that you are the most unique and creative being in the world. I think that's the sense that there's no AI that will ever take that from me, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think critical thinking is really important in today's day and age. A lot of people believe things they see on the internet, and that's going to lead to a lot of problems before it leads to solutions. So I'm really interested to see how the next 5 to 10 years happen as we deal with AI. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time for this interview. He has Neanderthal brains in this lab. I mean, in his office, he's done a lot of interesting work. It's some of it sounds like mad science to me, and I would highly recommend checking out his research. And yeah, big thank you to Dr. Alysson Muotri.
Super. Thank you.